every company's going to be an AI company. It will be everywhere, just like software is everywhere.
That's right.
We used to have people take notes on conference calls. Now we can just have Microsoft Copilot take the notes and send them out for people who couldn't be there. Things like that can make people much more effective. It hasn't meant we need less people, but I can have people, maybe not work 14 hours a day. Maybe they can work 12 hours a day. I would say we use it for internal operations, and we'll use it increasingly more, right? You could envision a world where you're still going to need people, but it can run overnight when people go home.
Welcome to part 2 of our conversation with Heather Bellini. Stay tuned for more insights from Heather about the workplace, her career, and her interesting life journey. So talking about the teams and bigger teams where you're leading leaders and inspiring them, any suggestions for people who might find themselves in similar predicaments of, inspiring and getting people behind you? Yeah,
I think it's really trying to get to know the people the best you can, see what motivates them, getting suggestions from everybody. I always tell people constructive feedback is positive feedback's great, makes people feel good, but the constructive feedback is what's going to make us even better. I would say, our CEO has a saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We really trying to get people to understand there is time to change. When things aren't working, you have to change. And we can't keep doing the same thing, but people get stuck in their routines. And sometimes, while routine could be great and discipline could be great, if it's the wrong routine, it's not going to get the change that you need. So it's letting people understand, sometimes it's okay to be uncomfortable. And sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you have to let things break to fix them. And, sometimes you have to do less things to get better.
Yes.
Right. So to do more, you need to do less. It sounds kind of weird, but I think there's a lot of truth to that.
I agree with you completely. I really do. And I also agree with the whole idea of understanding when it's time to change. And that's almost an art in and of itself.
Yeah.
Is it something that we're still trying to germinate, or is it time now to move on? So How do you know the difference in your business?
You might know it's time to change, or you might think it's time to change, but what you're going to change to might not be the right outcome. But that's something that's really important is sometimes you have to try different things and see what works. It's there's A/B testing in the world for a reason. What's the A/B test we could do to prove out whether or not change would make sense? Just being willing to accept, I say all the time, just because we did something one way in the past doesn't mean that's the way it should be if we think that there's room for improvement, right? And in almost all businesses, there's always room for improvement. Some segments might have different levels of improvement than others, but trying different things is what keeps us moving forward.
Absolutely. And take a look at the world today. There's not one industry. I don't think there's one space on the planet that's not going through some type of transformational change right now. And I think it's very upsetting to a good portion of the world that's very accustomed to having things continue.
No one likes change. It's hard. And I got used to change. I remember the first time I changed jobs, I was, on my own without going with my senior analyst at the time. It was really scary. And you would stay up awake for a week. And then I was after a while, you're you know what, that's good. But some people never change roles, and that's fine. Never change firms. But, I think there's growth for the right people at the right time. It makes sense. And while change is scary, I've never regretted any of them.
It always seems to work itself out.
Yeah.
If you're willing to just kind of go through that terrible period of uncomfortableness.
Right.
Your comment about change, I agree with it completely. And I've spent a lot of my structured career in change. And what I do now is a lot of change work as well. And I think that the popular thought about change, if we were to have a group of people here, say, what do you think about change? Most everyone would say, oh, it's great. Raise their hand, positive. But then when it comes to change coming to your doorstep, it's well, maybe you could change that person. I'm perfectly fine. I don't need change. They need change,
Right. Yeah. No, I would agree with that.
So let's talk a little bit about, you say, you have to break some things every once in a while. And I think that, again, the culture that you exist in or operate in has a lot to do with how people lean into that learning process.
Right.
So have you noticed differences between the places that you've worked in how experimentation, learning, how all of that has come together? What have you seen from like the institutional space to where you're at now?
I would say the change on the institutional side would have been more change for how do we keep the franchise, the equity, my equity research franchise, which was very much a team effort. How do you keep that at the top of its game? How do you evolve as the way research got distributed evolves, how people wanted to interact with analysts evolved, how people interacted with managements evolved. So like, how do you keep evolving and changing to better the service that you're offering to your clients, which then ultimately does better for the firm? In the role I'm in now, I would say it's, again, it's trying to figure out that A/B testing, trying to figure out how do we allocate our scarce resources, which is people and capital, and, playing around with getting disciplined around prioritization of investments, for example, and then trying to see and set goals and measurement for how those investments are paying off. And if they're not paying off, quickly pivoting. So trying to learn to fail fast. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it's failing, don't keep throwing money out the doors, putting resources on it if you know it's not going to work, right? So when do you recognize things aren't going to work the way you thought, whether it's for a product or a service or with a person, and decide to pivot? So I would say that's something that we kind of are constantly trying to assess and evaluate.
So I know that we didn't talk about this in advance when we were doing our preliminaries, but I do have to ask you the question about AI in your business.
Right.
So, I mean, I do some facilitation of roundtable groups pretty regularly. And one of the things I like to do is just time how long it takes before AI trots itself out onto the agenda. Right. So I don't know how long we've been into this discussion, but here it is. So how is it impacting your business?
It impacts every business. Mm-hmm. So it's like when the internet came out, and I remember Mary Meeker's first internet report, and the internet changed everything. Yeah. AI is going to change everything. There's not every company's going to be an AI company. Mm-hmm. So, while you've got the NVIDIAs of the world or the open AIs of the world, right? Like it will be everywhere, just like software is everywhere.
That's right.
I mean, we leverage tools internally and are constantly looking and have really accelerated our looking at things that can, how do you close your books faster? How do you do the financial analysis faster? We used to have people take notes on conference calls. Now we can just have, whether it's, an open AI tool or whether it's a Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, take the notes and send them out for people who couldn't be there. Things like that can make people much more effective. For us, on that side, it hasn't meant we need less people, but I can have people, maybe not work 14 hours a day. Maybe they can work 12 hours a day because, and that's probably not the case yet, but where they can actually have more time to think. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we go from meeting to meeting without any time to think. So whether it's in the shower or at the gym and you're trying to figure out what's that time that you have good ideas. So I would say we use it for internal operations, and we'll use it increasingly more, right? Automated testing for our software products, things like that. It's not all the way there yet, but you could envision a world where a lot of the quality assurance in software will be, you're still going to need people, but it can run overnight when people go home, and constantly check your software. And hopefully your quality goes way up as a result of that in terms of what we're delivering for our customers. Writing code, right? Mm-hmm. Taking legacy software and being able to, help with agentic AI, turn it into more modern code. So things that, would just take a lot of time for humans to do. And so, and it's fairly accurate, right? So, but you've got to train it and we'll see how great it is, but we're leveraging a lot of that. And then for the tools that we sell to our end customers, everyone expects AI to be in your tool set. People want to know, about, we have a whole suite of what we call smart enabled products, which is for intelligence or information gathering or meeting assistance and things like that can help make our key customers in this case, advisors or consumers, much more efficient in their role, or just give them the experience that they're looking for
in an easier way, perhaps. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed as I've worked with different companies is that for the most part, I think everyone is moving in that direction. Some are at different stages of their journey, of course, but people are seeing AI as this enabling tool that will allow a different type of work experience.
Right.
Yet, I think that when we go back to what we were talking about earlier, people get stuck in their comfort zones. They like doing a certain thing. I mean, what's your experience been with your teams leaning into this and recognizing that the world is going to change and it probably is going to impact them in some capacity and that they need to adjust?
For the most part, people work hard, right? People are working long hours where I am and on my teams. And I would say they're looking at a way to make them more efficient and to be able to have time to think instead of, again, running from meeting to meeting, which means you're just doing. You're not necessarily, you're checking things off, but you're not necessarily helping to drive the business to the future like it needs to be. So I think people embrace it. I don't think people really view it as, at least, again, I know people do view it in some circumstances as a risk to employment, but I don't think that's the people that I'm working with. I think they think of it as an enabling tool and to make, again, stuff that's very rote. No one really likes to do that anyhow. Yeah. So it lets them work on other things. And if they can up-level what they're doing, and then the person above them can up-level what they're doing, then I can up-level what I'm doing.
That's right.
And so it just helps move everyone higher. But I'm sure there's fears throughout many organizations about it, but I see it as a positive thing.
Yeah, I do too. This whole idea of time and the lack of time and the whole transactional nature of just kind of moving from one to the next. This does help with that. But I'll just share an experience that I had a few years ago. So I was working with a group of people that were in the support area. And we had a lot of transactional types of business that would come in, customer inquiries that we could easily automate. And I can remember multiple occasions having conversations with people about, well, you could have done it this way or that way, and this is the right way. Why didn't you do it that way? Well, I didn't have time. So we really doubled down on this whole robotics proposition. And before we knew it, we actually gave people time back. And it was really interesting to watch the reaction, going back to how you talk about how change takes a long time sometimes for people to wrap their heads around. At the beginning, it didn't last for a long time, but I just found it almost shocking to hear people kind of wax glowingly about the halcyon days of, I used to be able to do this. I said, you never liked doing that.
Yeah, right. The thing about AI for the workplace that's also interesting is you need to train people. And for our firm, we can certainly we're trying to do the best job we can, but we can do more because just putting Copilot or Glean on someone's, giving someone access to that on their desktop doesn't mean they're necessarily going to use it. So what are the best ways to use it? And so having an educational library or having a trainer come in and show you, hey, here's how I can help make you better. I think that would really help with adoption of the tools as well. I think it's a great buzzword. People say we're putting AI in, but like walking people through how they should use it for their specific roles is something that, I know we're working on.
Yeah, I see it as another large coaching opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, it's one thing to see it and it's another thing to use it.
Right,
and you can have all the great tools that you
how do I write prompts the right way?
Exactly.
Right? So,
yeah. And to not be afraid of it and to really lean into it.
You need trial and error. So people, you actually have to dedicate time as the individual, as the user, to try and say, once someone tells you, here's what it could help you with, it's like, you have to play around with it. Just like anything, right? They say 10 minutes a day of practice makes you an expert, right? Like you need that. You need to be spending time just playing around with it. And it's easy to put off at the end of a long day.
It is. It is. Again, that discipline issue. It's easier not to go to the gym than go to the gym.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think we're entering this whole new era of just different ways of thinking about the way we go to work and what that means and how we actually execute and work with each other.
Right.
It's actually kind of exciting
Yeah.
when you think about it. So this has been such a wonderful conversation.
Yeah,
and I hope you've enjoyed your time.
Great.
There's so much that you've shared with that our viewers are going to get a lot out of. So, and I personally have gotten out of it too.
Thank you.
So in closing, I'd just like to ask Heather, if you were to think of all the great things that you've done in your life, what is that one thing that stands out to you that you feel the most proud of?
I am most proud of my children.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that.
It's funny. I was on Bloomberg TV one day for a Women's Day interview.
Mm-hmm.
And the announcer or the moderator sat me down and they were like, was the day you made partner at Goldman Sachs the best day of your life? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
And they were kind of surprised. And they said, well, why not? Like, what was? And I'm like, well, I think I'd start with the day I got married.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd start with I'd have the birth of my two daughters. And the person was a little taken back. But yes, I am thankful for all of those things because they make my life complete.
I am so glad to hear you say that. I am of the same philosophy. I have 2 boys. And a wonderful, loving husband, and we've as a family achieved so much.
Right.
We've learned and transformed and achieved. It's the most remarkable thing to be able to be in that position. So
yeah, I agree, and we share our success and our disappointments together, and come together to support each other, whether for the highs or the lows.
yes.
So yes, those are the things I'm most thankful for.
And it puts
And
you,
good friends, of course.
yes. So to be able to share and to experience and to learn from each other, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So Heather, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, we'll put this into the show notes, of course, but are you open to any?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. I respond to my messages. So just reach out to me there.
Wonderful. Well, God bless you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Karen.
Hopefully you'll come back and see us again soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Take
great.
care.
Very good.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Make Minutes Matter. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast on YouTube or click the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And let me know what you thought of today's conversation by following us on Instagram at Karen Gilhooly 1. That's Karen, Karen, Gilhooly, Gilhooly, and the number 1. Let's make every moment in your career truly matter. Have a great day.